Hey guys, tonight we step into a winter that doesn't care about your plans, your comfort, or the fact that your fingers are already numb, and you do it anyway because the bees are depending on you. You're standing at the edge of a medieval village as late autumn slides quietly into winter, the fields stiff with frost, the air sharp enough to wake you better than coffee ever could. Somewhere nearby, a hive murmurs faintly, a sound so small you'd miss it if you weren't listening for it. And you probably won't survive this, at least not comfortably, because medieval beekeeping in winter is an endurance test disguised as rural life. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're not thinking about honey right now, not really. Winter isn't for harvesting, it's for holding on. Mainstream historians agree that medieval beekeepers understood something critical. Winter was the most dangerous season for a hive, not because of predators, but because of silence, cold, and hunger. As the days shorten, you notice how the bees change. They stop flying out. They pull inward, clustering tightly around their queen, turning their bodies into living insulation. You don't fully understand the science, no one does yet, but you know what survival looks like when you see it. You walk between hives made of hollowed logs or woven skeps, their straw walls batched and thickened with mud and dung. Yes, dung, cow or horse, smeared carefully to block drafts. It smells earthy, not unpleasant, and it dries into a surprisingly solid seal. There's a fringe belief, whispered more than taught, that the smell itself discourages evil spirits or sickness. Historians still argue whether these practices were based on observation, superstition, or sheer desperation, but you don't argue with results when lives, tiny, buzzing lives, are at stake. Your job now is preparation. You tilt a hive gently, judging its weight by feel alone. Too light means danger. Bees that enter winter without enough honey won't make it, no matter how mild the season. You've already taken less honey than you could have, resisting the temptation to maximize profit. That restraint is another quiet lesson passed down without books. Take too much, and winter will take everything back. The world feels muted. Snow hasn't fallen yet, but the ground is hard, the sky low and pale. Inside the hive, though, there's motion, slow, deliberate, communal. You press an ear to the wood, listening. A healthy hive hums softly, like breath through a blanket. Too quiet, and your stomach tightens. Too loud, frantic, and you worry they're burning through stores too fast. There's no fixing that now. Winter has rules, and you're already inside them. As evening comes earlier each day, you realize this season isn't about control. It's about stewardship, patience, and waiting alongside creatures that have been doing this far longer than you. You pull your cloak tighter, already tired, already cold, and already committed, because once winter closes the hives, there's no turning back. You wake before dawn, not because you want to, but because winter doesn't care about sleep schedules. The cold presses in through every crack of the cottage, and you lie there for a moment listening, to the wind worrying at the thatch, to the quiet pop of cooling embers, and faintly, distantly, to the memory of bees you can't actually hear from here, but somehow still feel responsible for. This is the season when doing nothing is sometimes the most important work you can do, even though it feels deeply wrong to your modern brain that wants checklists and progress bars. By now, the hives are sealed for the long haul. Mainstream historians know that medieval beekeepers interfered as little as possible once winter truly set in, because opening a hive could release precious heat and doom the colony. You resist the urge to check, you resist the urge to help. Instead, you walk the perimeter, boots crunching softly over frost, scanning for overturned skeps, gnawed edges, or signs that a fox or badger has been investigating. Predators don't hibernate on principle, they just get hungrier. You pack snow gently around the base of the hives, not burying them, just tucking them in. Snow, counterintuitively, acts as insulation, trapping warmer air close to the hive walls. This is one of those facts that sounds fake until you've lived long enough without central heating. There's a fringe belief that certain beekeepers whispered prayers or charms while doing this, asking the bees to sleep kindly. Historians still argue whether these rituals had psychological value for the beekeeper more than any real effect on the hive, but your hands move more carefully when your mouth is busy with hope. Inside the village, winter life contracts, tasks slow. People mend tools, patch clothes, and tell the same stories again because there aren't many new ones happening. Bees, you know, are doing something similar. They aren't sleeping in the way you do. They're vibrating, just enough to keep warm, rotating positions so no single bee freezes. It's collective endurance, which feels both inspiring and exhausting to think about. Every few days you check stores, not honey but fuel.
Firewood matters because you'll need wax. Even in winter, wax is valuable for candles, salves, and church offerings. Some medieval households rendered old combs during winter, melting wax slowly over low heat. A quirky tidbit passed around in beekeeping lore claims that wax melted during a snowstorm burns cleaner in candles, though no one can quite explain why. You suspect it's nonsense, but you also notice those candles do seem steadier, and you don't question it too hard. Food is simpler now. Bread, onions, maybe dry apples if you were lucky in autumn. You eat, you wait, you listen. On especially cold nights, you swear you can feel when the temperature drops too fast, like an itch between your shoulders. You picture the bees tightening their cluster, honey being passed mouth to mouth, survival measured in millimeters of comb. Winter teaches restraint. You don't poke, you don't fix, you trust systems older than you. And somewhere in that trust, your own breathing slows, matching the season, matching the hive, matching a rhythm that doesn't need you to be busy to be meaningful.
As winter settles deeper, days lose their edges. You stop counting them properly and start measuring time by smaller, quieter things. The thickness of ice on the water bucket, the way smoke hangs lower in the air, how long it takes light to reach the far wall after sunrise. This is the stretch of winter that feels endless, the part modern calendars politely rush past. For you, it's the core of the season, and the bees are still there, still working at the slowest possible pace. Mainstream historians agree that medieval beekeepers rarely harvested honey in winter, relying instead on what had been carefully left behind. Taking too much in autumn could doom a hive, and experienced keepers learned restraint the hard way. You think of this whenever hunger makes you consider opening stores too quickly. Bees and people share that same fragile balance. Use just enough, save just enough, and hope you judged it right. There's maintenance to do, even now, but it's indirect. You repair old skeps indoors, replating straw by firelight. The smell is dry and comforting, a little grassy, a little smoky. This is work done for a future you can't yet feel. A quirky bit of beekeeping folklore suggests that repairing skeps in silence keeps bees calmer in spring. Historians still argue whether this belief reflects any real behavioral outcome or simply reinforces the quiet, patient mindset winter demands, but you find yourself enjoying the hush anyway. On certain days, when the sun is bright but weak, you listen near the hives. Not with your ears pressed to straw, that would be ridiculous, but standing still long enough to sense vibration. Most days, there's nothing, and that nothing is the goal. Bees that are too active burn through stores too fast. Bees that are too still, well, you don't linger on that thought. You've learned that winter rewards attentiveness without obsession, which is a maddening lesson if you like control. Inside, beeswax work continues. Candles are poured slowly, layer by layer, because rushing causes cracks. These candles will light winter prayers, late suppers, and the long hours before dawn. Fringe accounts claim that some beekeepers believed bees could sense when their wax was being burned and felt honored by it. Historians still argue whether this idea stems from spiritual symbolism or simple gratitude projected onto insects, but the care you take feels appropriate regardless. Social life shrinks but deepens. Neighbors visit less often, yet when they do, they stay longer. Talk drifts toward weather signs, survival tricks, and memories of winters worse than this one. You notice how often bees come up in conversation, even among people who don't keep them. Honey touches everyone's life, medicine, food, trade, so the fate of the hives feels communal. When one beekeeper loses a colony, it's discussed in lowered voices, like a shared failure of the season. At night, the cold tightens. You add wood to the fire, wrap yourself in wool, and think again about the hive cluster. Thousands of tiny bodies doing the math at survival together. No leader, no instructions, just instinct refined by centuries. Winter strips life down to essentials: warmth, stillness, patience. And as you drift toward sleep, you realize that you too are learning how to endure by staying exactly where you are. Winter begins to loosen its grip in subtle ways before anyone dares to say it out loud. You notice it in the quality of the cold. It still bites, but it no longer feels personal. The light lingers a few heartbeats longer in the afternoon, and when you step outside, the ground smells faintly damp instead of frozen solid. For the bees, this is the most dangerous part of the season, and for you, it's the moment vigilance quietly returns. Mainstream historians note that late winter and early spring losses were common in medieval beekeeping, even after a colony had seemingly survived the worst cold. The problem wasn't frost, it was hunger. As bees begin to stir, their energy needs spike, and stores that once seemed ample can vanish quickly. You resist the urge to check the hive too often. Opening it now could collapse the fragile warmth inside. Patience, once again, is not optional. There are signs you watch for instead. On milder days, you look for faint marks in the snow, tiny dark specks near the hive entrance, evidence of cleansing flights. It's an unglamorous detail, but it's one of the most hopeful sights of the season. A quirky bit of medieval lore claims that the first cleansing flight determines the hive's temperament for the year. Historians still argue whether this belief has any basis in observation or simply offered emotional reassurance after a long winter of waiting, but you smile when you see it anyway. Inside, preparations accelerate quietly.
Frames are checked, tools laid out, and spare scaps moved closer to the door. You don't rush repairs, but you don't delay them either. Medieval beekeeping manuals, when they exist at all, emphasize readiness more than action. The work is in being prepared to act when the moment arrives, not in forcing the season to move faster than it wants to. Food shifts too. Honey, once rationed carefully, is now tasted more often. A spoonful in warm water becomes a small luxury, a reminder of what you've been protecting all winter. Fringe traditions suggest that sharing the first honey of the year with neighbors ensured good fortune for the hives. Historians still argue whether this custom was symbolic generosity or a practical way to reinforce community bonds around shared resources, but either way, no one refuses the offer. The bees begin to hum again, not loudly, not confidently, but enough that you can sense life resuming. It's tempting to celebrate, to declare winter beaten, but experience tells you better. Cold snaps return without warning, and a careless day can undo months of restraint. You move through this period carefully, matching your pace to the bees' own cautious optimism. By now, winter has taught you its final lesson. Survival isn't about enduring the worst moment, but navigating the transition out of it. Anyone can brace against cold. Fewer know how to ease back into motion without breaking what they've preserved. As you stand near the hives, feeling the air soften, you realize that both you and the bees have changed. Slower, more attentive, and better prepared for what comes next.
Spring doesn't arrive all at once. It seeps in, almost apologetically, and you meet it the same way you've met the entire winter, without haste. The ground softens underfoot, the air loses its sharp edge, and the hives respond before you fully trust what you're feeling. The bees' hum grows steadier now, no longer the fragile vibration of survival, but the low, confident sound of a system waking up. You probably won't survive medieval beekeeping if you expect a dramatic victory lap here. The season rewards restraint, not celebration. Mainstream historians agree that medieval beekeepers timed their first full hive openings carefully, often waiting until flowering plants appeared consistently, rather than relying on temperature alone. You follow that wisdom, watching hedgerows and early blossoms more closely than the sky. When you finally lift a skep, the scent hits you immediately. Warm wax, stored honey, and something green and alive. It feels earned, not exciting, like arriving at the end of a long vigil. There's work now, but it's measured. You clean debris, repair damaged comb, and assess the colony's strength. A quirky fringe belief suggests that speaking softly to the bees during this first inspection encourages productivity. Historians still argue whether such practices were genuine attempts at animal husbandry or simply rituals that helped humans stay calm and deliberate, but you find yourself doing it anyway. The bees don't seem to mind. Winter stores are tallied, not with guilt, but with clarity. What remains becomes the foundation for the coming year. Some honey is taken, carefully, sparingly, while leaving enough for the colony to rebuild without stress. Medieval records suggest that over-harvesting after winter was a common mistake among inexperienced keepers, one that could doom a hive just weeks after survival seemed assured. You avoid that error, even when the temptation is strong. As days lengthen, tasks shift outward. You repair fences, clear brush, and plan where new scaps might sit once swarming season begins. The bees' world expands, and so does yours. Winter taught you to wait. Spring teaches you to respond. The balance between action and restraint remains, just expressed differently. By now, you understand something medieval beekeepers learned the hard way. Winter is not a separate chapter of the year, but the force that shapes all the others. The patience, attention, and humility you practiced in the cold become the foundation for abundance. The bees didn't just survive, they trained you. Now, let everything slow again, but this time without tension. The hives are steady, the air is mild, and the work ahead feels possible rather than urgent. You stand quietly, listening to the bees move through their renewed routines, and notice how your own breathing has changed since winter began. It's deeper now, less guarded. The lessons linger softly. Survival didn't come from force or clever trucks, but from alignment, matching your actions to the season instead of fighting it. The bees never rushed, never panicked, never demanded certainty. They responded, patiently, moment by moment, and you learned to do the same. As evening settles, you let the details fade, the smell of wax, the low hum, the memory of frozen mornings. What remains is a calm understanding that cycles continue whether you hurry or not. Winter passes, work returns, rest follows again. You don't need to hold on to anything now. So stay still for a while longer. Let the quiet stretch. Let the year unfold on its own terms.